Exactly. You gotta have the turbo noise. Alright, so I figure I'm going to do a real quick review on my thoughts on the Polaris Assault Boost. I've got about 350 miles on it. We're pretty much at the end of the season right now, so I've kind of developed more of an opinion on everything, and I want to give you guys a quick rundown on that. The first thing, when you get a turbo, you think you're going to get lots of turbo noises, but that's not necessarily something I've experienced a lot of. Once I got out of the initial like 50-mile break-in, I did get a little bit more turbo noise out of it. But even once I was quote-unquote completely out of break-in, you kind of have to, around 40, almost give it gas for no reason, kind of hold the gas for a second, then let off, and you kind of get a little bit of turbo noise. So if you're kind of like addicted to that like blow-off valve type turbo noise, you're not going to get a ton of it on the Assault Boost, but you do get a little, and if you know how to like look for it, you can definitely hear it. Throttle response is a little bit different on this sled. You get like kind of the typical 850 throttle response down low, but then it just climbs so hard from, I would say, like, I don't even want to say a quarter throttle, like 1/5 throttle, like all the way through the rest of the power band. So you almost end up kind of keeping your thumb quite a bit farther from the bars, because as soon as you start to go like even quarter throttle, the sled's like really starting to accelerate pretty quick. So I did notice that typically my thumb is farther from the bars, and the first day I rode it, my thumb got pretty sore, but since then I've been pretty much fine. So. The mid-range leg power is insane. If you're going 50 and you hit the gas, like, you genuinely have to hold on. I was saying that to Josh. I was super impressed with how hard it pulls in the mid-range, and it just seems to pull forever. Try the sled from like 50 to 80, see what you think. It's hard to hold on to, honestly. What'd you think? I thought it was wacky. Like, so at one point I'm doing it and I'm like, oh my god, like my arms hurt. It really is, like, I feel like I wasn't even fully turning it either. Yeah. It's like 80% and it's still like, it just goes. It's wild. I will say I've only gotten like 111, 112 out of my sled so far, but I haven't really done like a full-on top speed run with like perfect conditions. It's all been kind of slushy snow, so it pretty much gets to 110 every single time you try. So pretty decent as far as top end goes, but yeah, not like the 120 some people are seeing so far, but again, it's not necessarily something that I've really tried to achieve, so excited to see next year the kind of top speed I can get out of it. I've really struggled with the suspension on this. I like Josh's sled a lot, and I kind of have been using that as my benchmark. I wouldn't say Josh's is as good as the Lynx, but it's definitely better than the Boost. changed almost every setting on my sled to try to match his sled, and I'm still kind of struggling with it. I think I might get the shocks revalved. The initial tip-in on the shocks is just very aggressive and almost makes the, I hate to say it, but it makes it kind of ride like a tractor. And then as soon as I get on Josh's sled, I feel really comfortable, and part of that I think might also be the weight distribution. I know there's not supposed to be a huge weight penalty with the Boost versus an NA Assault, but Josh and I both don't have electric start, but I do have that little battery to power my gauge, and then I also have a turbo up in the front, and him and I have both agreed when you're going through the bumps, there's just so much more weight on the skis, and it's definitely very noticeable. So I think with some suspension revalving, I might be able to get it a little bit more where I want it. I adjusted my torsion springs to the second setting. I've had my clickers on every shock for my compression in so many different configurations. Had the front softer, had the back stiffer, had the front stiffer, back softer. Like, I've just tried a bunch of stuff. The only other thing I can think of trying is adjusting the center shock spring. I haven't been able to do that just because there's been a bunch of snow packed up in the skids. So that's kind of my last ditch effort. But I will say, like, the initial tip in when you first hit a bump feels very stiff, and then it feels like the rest of the stroke on the shocks is good, but I would almost want to like soften that initial hit and then maybe have something stiffer like at the very end instead of the way it's set up right now. Overall, I'm definitely really enjoying it, but yeah, those are kind of some standouts. The power's awesome. I know I've seen some people saying I'm not even riding it that fast yet, but I've definitely been able to open up the turbo and really send it. So yeah, definitely really enjoying the sled. Just want to tweak the suspension, but feels super premium overall. It's really cool. It has like the different accent lighting, and the power is awesome. A little bit of trouble with it overheating also, but you guys have seen that before, and that's just something that I've kind of learned, and I think I'll end up putting ice scratchers on it to help cure that. So other than that, if you have any questions about the Boost, let me know down below.